Some of the most important lessons in life come when you're on your knees, when the plan falls apart, the call doesn't come, the person leaves, or the silence gets too loud. That's when you start to realize that strength isn't something you're born with. It's something you build in the wreckage. And that's exactly where Stoicism steps in, not as a theory or a nice quote, but as a tool, a real, usable way to reset your mindset when everything feels unstable. We're going to walk through 10 Stoic principles that can help you rebuild from the inside out. Not through hacks or hype, but through calm, grounded wisdom that's lasted for centuries. These aren't abstract ideas. They're practical ways to deal with overthinking, setbacks, emotional exhaustion, and the daily pressure to hold it all together. Whether you're feeling stuck or quietly craving change, what you'll hear today is designed to anchor you, not just inspire you. Because Stoicism isn't about being cold or distant. It's about learning how to stay steady in a chaotic world. It's about having the clarity to act, the discipline to wait, and the strength to let go. If even part of you knows it's time to stop reacting and start responding with intention, then you're exactly where you need to be. And if reflections like this feel honest to you, if they offer even a little clarity, direction, or peace, consider subscribing. It's a simple act, but it shows that you're committed to living with purpose, not just passing through. And that small decision might be the first of many that bring you back to yourself. 1. Listen more than you speak. Do you know why silence feels uncomfortable for most people? It exposes us. But the first Stoic principle teaches us that silence is not a weakness, it's a weapon. In a world obsessed with being heard, learning to listen gives you an edge. When you listen, you learn. When you speak less, you see more. Listening isn't passive. It's one of the strongest acts of self-discipline. And yet, most people rush to fill silence with noise as if quiet itself is a threat. But the Stoics knew better. Epictetus once said, "We have 2 ears and 1 mouth so that we can listen twice as much as we speak." That's not just clever, it's essential, because in silence, truth has room to rise. When you resist the urge to respond, when you allow space between reaction and reply, you gain clarity, and clarity is power. Silence also reveals. It shows you who's at peace with themselves and who isn't. The person who can sit in stillness without fidgeting, without nervously reaching for their phone or raising their voice to dominate the room, that person isn't hiding from themselves. They've met their own thoughts and survived the conversation. In contrast, constant talking often masks insecurity. It's a form of running from reflection, from discomfort, from vulnerability. But silence invites all of that. It slows down the noise and brings you face to face with what's real. That's why it's so hard. And that's also why it's so important. Carl Jung once noted that people will do anything, no matter how absurd, to avoid facing their own soul. And yet the soul speaks loudest in quiet moments. So if you can get comfortable with silence, you're already doing what most people never will. You're turning inward, listening deeply, and building something unshakable inside yourself. This kind of listening doesn't just change how you relate to yourself, it transforms how you relate to others. It teaches you to hear what isn't said, the tone, the hesitation, the silence between the words. That's where real understanding lives. And when people feel truly understood, they open up, they trust. And that's when connection begins. There's strength in that. Socrates said, "The only true wisdom is in knowing you know nothing." That mindset only comes when you let go of the need to dominate a conversation and instead step into the role of the learner, the student, the one who listens, reflects, absorbs. Every room you walk into becomes a classroom. Every person you meet becomes a teacher. But that only happens when you shut your mouth and open your mind. Because when you speak just to be heard, you miss everything being said. You trade knowledge for ego. And ego is a poor teacher. So the next time you're in a conversation, try this. Say less than you usually would. Not to be mysterious or aloof, but to be present. Let others talk. Let the silence stretch a second longer than feels comfortable. Pay attention to what rises in you. That discomfort. That's where growth begins. Plato once said, "Wise men speak because they have something to say, fools because they have to say something." It's one of those truths that cuts deep, because it forces us to ask ourselves, when I speak, am I adding value or just avoiding discomfort? In the end, silence is not about withholding, it's about refining. You become more selective with your words and more intentional with your presence, and that's when people start to notice. You walk differently, you listen fully, you carry yourself with quiet strength instead of loud uncertainty. That's what Stoicism gives you, a new relationship with silence, a way to stop reacting and start observing, and in that space between impulse and action, that's where you reclaim your power. 2. Treat every loss as a lesson. Growth doesn't come from things going right. It comes from choosing who you'll be when things go wrong. This is the Stoic path, not the avoidance of suffering, but the transformation of it. And if you're still here, still listening, still reflecting, that says something. You're not just interested in ideas, you're ready for change. That's rare. And if you appreciate this kind of grounded, honest work, there's a simple way to support it. Just hit that subscribe button. That's all. Let's keep growing together. 3. Detach from what you can't control. Freedom begins the moment you stop trying to control what isn't yours. Focus on your response. That's where your power lives. It's a shift that seems simple, almost too quiet to notice, but it changes everything. We spend so much of our lives trying to bend reality to our will. We fight the timing, we fight the outcome, we even fight other people's choices, as if we had the right to decide for them. But Stoicism teaches us that peace doesn't come from getting your way. It comes from learning to let go of what was never yours to manage in the first place. There's a strange kind of suffering that comes from constantly reaching outside yourself. You try to control how others see you. You try to manage what someone thinks, how they feel, what they'll do next. But the more you try to grip the external world, the more it slips right through your fingers. That tension, that anxious grasping, it robs you of your center. You become reactive, exhausted, drained by things you were never meant to carry. And the most painful part? You don't even realize how heavy it's been until you finally put it down. The Stoics weren't emotionless. They were grounded, rooted in what was real, in what they could control, their thoughts, their reactions, their attitude. As Epictetus said, some things are up to us and some things are not. That's it. That's the line. And once you know where that line is, you can stop wasting your strength on storms you can't steer. Carl Jung once wrote, "I am not what happened to me. I am what I choose to become." That's what this principle leads to. Not detachment for its own sake, but a kind of radical responsibility. You're not giving up. You're showing up. Fully. But only where your energy makes a difference. You learn to respond rather than react. To step back and ask, is this mine to hold? And when it's not, you let it go. Not out of indifference, but out of wisdom. And in that space between stimulus and response, something powerful begins to grow. Patience, clarity, a sense of self that doesn't rise and fall with someone else's mood or the chaos of the day. You start to act from values, not impulses. You start to move with intention, not fear. It's the kind of freedom that doesn't need to be loud to be real. Think about how much time we lose trying to rewrite what already happened, or worrying about what hasn't even come. That mental tug-of-war is a trap. Plato said, "The first and greatest victory is to conquer yourself." And self-mastery starts with clarity about what's yours and what's not. You can't control the past, you can't predict the future, but you can stand firmly in the present and choose your next move with purpose. This is the kind of power that doesn't need control over others to feel strong. It's inward, steady, quiet, and it changes how you walk through the world. You become less reactive to nonsense, less attached to praise or blame. You don't need to win every argument or fix every misunderstanding. You know where your energy ends, and that gives your attention value. Your focus becomes your boundary. And the truth is, not everything needs your reaction. Not every opinion needs a defense. Not every storm deserves your emotional investment. Aristotle once said, "What lies in our power to do, lies in our power not to do." You can choose to respond with calm, with silence, with stillness. That's not weakness, that's discipline, that's presence. When you stop trying to control what isn't yours, you reclaim everything that is: your mind, your peace, your power to choose the next right thing, even in the middle of chaos. And that's where the real freedom begins, quietly, steadily, within you. 4. Expect the storm, but stand like a mountain. Prepare your mind for hardship, not out of fear, but out of strength. Anticipating adversity builds unshakable resilience. This isn't about becoming negative or expecting the worst in a hopeless way. It's about grounding yourself so deeply in what is real that when life shakes you, and it will, you don't fall apart. You may bend, but you won't break. The Stoics called this practice premeditatio malorum, the premeditation of evils. Not to dwell in worry, but to meet reality with open eyes and a ready heart. Most people go through life hoping things will go smoothly, almost as if ease is the default and difficulty is a mistake. But ease was never promised. Difficulty is part of the contract. And when you've prepared yourself mentally, when you've already walked through the fire in your imagination, the real storm feels less like chaos and more like confirmation. You don't ask, "Why is this happening to me?" You simply say, "This is what I trained for." There's something powerful that happens when you stop expecting life to protect you from discomfort. You begin to grow a deeper kind of peace, a steady, quiet confidence that doesn't depend on circumstances staying perfect. Carl Jung once said, "No tree, it is said, can grow to heaven unless its roots reach down to hell." That's the kind of strength we're talking about, not surface-level optimism, but a grounded courage born from facing what could go wrong and still choosing to move forward. And no, this isn't about living in fear of what might happen. It's about building the inner scaffolding so that when it does, you don't crumble. When you walk into a situation having already accepted the possibility of delay, rejection, criticism, or loss, you remove their sting. They stop being surprises and become tests of your preparation. Painful, maybe, but not shocking. Disruptive, but not defeating. There's a kind of freedom in that, a kind of emotional immunity. When your peace isn't built on comfort but on character, it stops being so easy to steal. You're not thrown off by every inconvenience or change in plan. You're anchored in something deeper, your response, your presence, your values. That's real stability. That's strength. Plato once noted that the first and greatest victory is to conquer yourself, and part of that conquest is learning how to meet adversity without flinching. It's easy to be calm when everything goes your way. But resilience isn't proven in calm waters. It's forged in the waves. Every time life pushes, and you push back with wisdom instead of panic, you become more of who you're meant to be. And over time, that mindset becomes second nature. Instead of dreading what might go wrong, you quietly strengthen your grip. You expect resistance not as punishment, but as part of the process. You stop waiting for life to get easier and start getting stronger yourself. That shift changes everything. It moves you from a place of reaction to a place of readiness. Socrates taught that the unexamined life is not worth living, and hardship is often the invitation to examine, to slow down, to rethink, to build deeper layers of wisdom you never would have found in comfort. It's not just about surviving the hard times. It's about letting them sharpen your clarity, stretch your limits, and solidify your peace. So you prepare, not because you live in fear, but because you value your future self enough to build them a foundation. You imagine the challenge not to suffer in advance, but to suffer less when the moment comes. That's the Stoic way. That's how you stay calm when the world around you isn't. Because the preparation happened long before the pressure, and that inner strength, that's yours now, and no one can take it from you. 5. Choose simplicity over chaos. A cluttered life creates a cluttered mind. Strip away what doesn't matter. What remains is clarity. The weight we carry isn't always physical. Sometimes it's the noise, the endless notifications, the distractions, the commitments we say yes to just to avoid disappointing someone. And the more we pile on, the more we drift from what truly matters. Simplicity isn't just about having less. It's about making space for what gives you life, not what drains it. We live in a world that equates more with better, more choices, more stimulation, more goals. But when everything is important, nothing is. The Stoics understood this long before modern minimalism made it trendy. They taught that freedom isn't found in excess, but in restraint. Epictetus reminded us, wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few wants. It's not about the volume of what you have. It's about the value of what remains once you let the noise go. The clutter often shows up subtly. You don't notice how heavy it's become until your mind starts feeling cloudy, unfocused. Your energy's scattered. Your sense of purpose gets buried under errands, obligations, and unfinished to-do lists. The mental fog isn't random. It's the byproduct of living a life out of alignment. When you're surrounded by things, people, and goals that don't reflect your values, your clarity becomes collateral damage. Carl Jung spoke to this inner misalignment when he said, "People will do anything, no matter how absurd, to avoid facing their own souls." And sometimes the clutter is just that, an avoidance strategy. We stay busy so we don't have to feel. We stay distracted so we don't have to reflect. But peace requires presence, and presence requires space. Stripping away the unnecessary isn't about living a cold or empty life. It's about coming back to what's essential. Relationships that are built on truth. Work that aligns with your values. Habits that nourish rather than numb. When you clear away what doesn't serve you, what's left is often exactly what you've been searching for. Stillness, focus, and a quiet confidence in your next step. It takes courage to say no, to let go of things that once mattered or seemed like they should. But the cost of holding on is too high. When your energy is split between a dozen shallow pursuits, you miss the depth of the one that truly matters. Plato once wrote, "The first and greatest victory is to conquer yourself," and that often starts with mastering your attention. Where it goes, your life follows. And this isn't about perfection. You don't need to throw everything away or move to the mountains. You just need to pause long enough to ask yourself, Is this helping me become who I want to be? If the answer is no, it might be time to let it go. That space you create, it's not emptiness. It's room for clarity, for healing, for new things that actually belong. The more you practice simplicity, the more you'll notice something powerful. Your thoughts become clearer, your choices more deliberate. You don't get pulled in every direction. You don't need to explain yourself as much. You start to trust your own pace. That quiet inner knowing, that's what simplicity gives you. And it's worth far more than whatever you had to let go. Because when the distractions fall away, what's left isn't lack, it's truth. And that's more than enough to build a meaningful life on. 6. Value progress over perfection. You don't need to get it right every time. You just need to keep moving. The Stoics aimed for excellence, not flawless outcomes. They understood that perfection is a trap, an illusion that keeps us stuck, hesitant, second-guessing ourselves. But forward motion, even when it's messy, builds something real. Every imperfect step becomes part of your progress. Every misstep is part of your shaping. Waiting to feel ready or certain before you act, that's where growth goes to die. We hold ourselves hostage to this idea that if something isn't perfect, it's not worth doing. But progress has never been about getting it all right. It's about becoming more honest with yourself. Doing your best, then doing better next time. As Aristotle once said, we are what we repeatedly do. Excellence, then, is not an act, but a habit. It's in the showing up, not in the showing off. You build your character in the repetition. In the quiet, ordinary days when nobody's watching. Mistakes aren't failures of identity. They're markers of effort, signs that you're in motion. The Stoics never chased praise or results. They measured their lives by intention and effort, by the question, did I act in alignment with my values today? And if the answer was no, they didn't spiral into shame. They adjusted. They kept going. Because that's what a meaningful life asks of you. Not perfection, but presence. Carl Jung said, the most intense conflicts, if overcome, leave behind a sense of security and calm that is not easily disturbed. That security doesn't come from a flawless track record. It comes from knowing you've been through enough to keep going even when you stumble. You've felt doubt, failure, criticism, and you kept showing up. That builds something inside you that no one can take away. There's a quiet freedom in letting go of the need to impress. You don't have to perform your worth. You just have to keep aligning your actions with your principles, moment by moment. And that might mean doing things imperfectly. It might mean starting when you're uncertain. But the point is to keep walking, to choose effort over ego, to keep building the life you want with the tools you have, even if your hands shake a little. Plato once said, never discourage anyone who continually makes progress, no matter how slow. That applies to you too. Stop measuring your journey by how fast you get there. Start noticing how far you've come, how much you've learned, how you keep showing up when it's hard. The strength is in the movement, not the outcome. Because when you aim for perfection, you never begin. But when you aim for growth, every moment becomes useful. Every day becomes a new chance. And little by little, you become someone resilient, someone focused, someone who doesn't quit when things get hard. The Stoics didn't pretend to be above error. They expected it. But they didn't sit in their mistakes. They moved through them. That's the difference between feeling stuck and feeling alive. So no, you don't need to get it right every time. You just need to keep moving, keep growing, keep becoming. That's where the power is. That's where you'll find your way. 7. Live by your principles, not people's opinions. You weren't born to chase approval. Integrity is doing what's right, even when it's not seen, praised or rewarded. It's choosing the harder path because it's the honest one. It's staying true to your values in silence when no applause is coming and no one is watching to pat you on the back. And that's what makes it powerful. Because when you act with integrity, you're not performing, you're practicing alignment between your actions and your core. Approval is addictive. It starts small, a compliment here, a like there, but over time, it can start to shape your decisions. You begin to filter your choices through the question, will they like this, instead of, is this right for me? The Stoics warned against this kind of dependence. They believed that the only true freedom comes when your happiness isn't tied to someone else's opinion. As Epictetus put it, if you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid. When your actions come from a place of honesty, not strategy, you start to reclaim something most people have lost, yourself. And that self becomes stronger with every choice made from principle, not popularity. It doesn't always feel good. In fact, it's often uncomfortable. Doing the right thing might cost you attention, validation, even certain relationships. But what you gain is worth more. A steady sense of who you are and a peace that doesn't vanish the moment someone disagrees with you. Socrates believed that the greatest way to live with honor in this world is to be what we pretend to be. That's the tension so many people live in, performing decency without living it, saying the right things in public while compromising in private. But Stoicism invites a different kind of life, one that isn't built on image but on substance. It teaches you that your character matters more than your reputation, that peace comes not from being admired, but from being internally consistent. Carl Jung once said, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." And becoming who you truly are doesn't happen when you're shaped by the shifting opinions of others. It happens in the quiet moments of choice, when you decide to speak the truth instead of remaining silent, to stand firm when it would be easier to follow, to hold the line even when it costs you. It's not that approval is bad, it's just not the goal. If it comes, let it be a byproduct, not a compass. Let your compass be truth. Let your guide be values that hold up whether you're in a crowd or completely alone. Because when you know you've acted from a place of integrity, you don't need validation. You don't need the spotlight to know your worth. That's a kind of strength that lives deep in your bones. And over time, that strength builds. You stop explaining yourself so much. You stop negotiating your values for comfort. You stop fearing judgment, because you know the judgment that matters most is the one you make in the mirror. Plato wrote, "The measure of a man is what he does with power." But there's another kind of power too, the quiet power of choosing what's right over what's easy, again and again. In a world built on appearances, integrity is rebellion. And the deeper you root yourself in it, the less approval you need to keep going. You move through life with more peace, more clarity, and more self-respect. You trust your own voice. You walk your own path. And slowly, that quiet example starts to speak louder than any performance ever could. So no, you weren't born to chase approval. You were made for something deeper, something truer. And when you choose that path, even in silence, you're not alone. You're walking with the Stoics, with the great minds who understood that the real reward isn't praise. It's the person you become. 8. Practice gratitude relentlessly. The most powerful shift is perspective. Gratitude turns ordinary moments into silent victories, not because your life becomes perfect overnight, but because your eyes begin to see differently. What once felt small now feels sacred. What you used to overlook becomes a reminder that you're still here, still breathing, still growing, still capable of something better. That shift doesn't need a spotlight. It doesn't ask for applause. but it quietly rewrites how you meet your life. We're conditioned to chase what's next. More success, more recognition, more validation. And in that chase, we miss what's right in front of us. The warmth of morning light, a deep breath after a long day, the strength it took just to keep going. These aren't small things, they're signs of presence. And presence is where life actually happens. Gratitude brings you back to that place, not as a performance but as a practice. Aristotle said, "Happiness depends upon ourselves." And part of that happiness isn't about changing your world, but changing how you hold it. When you start seeing what's already working, even if it's imperfect, you build a kind of quiet strength. Gratitude doesn't mean pretending everything's fine. It means recognizing the good while holding space for the hard. It's the ability to say, "This isn't perfect, but it's enough for now." Carl Jung spoke of the shadow within us, the unconscious parts we avoid. Often, ingratitude lives there. It hides in the space between what we hoped would happen and what actually did. It tells us we need more before we can rest, before we can be proud. But gratitude interrupts that lie. It says, "This moment counts, even if no one sees it, even if no one claps, even if all you did today was get up and try again." Socrates believed that the unexamined life wasn't worth living, and gratitude is a form of examination, noticing what we usually take for granted and giving it the weight it deserves. Your resilience, your insight, the lessons you earned the hard way. These things are easy to miss when you're measuring yourself by outcomes. But the Stoics remind us, value is found in the process, not the prize. You don't have to wait for life to get easier to start appreciating it. That's the secret most people miss. There is no perfect moment, there's just this one. And what you choose to see in it either nourishes your spirit or drains it. When you practice gratitude, you stop waiting for a better life. You start building one with what's already in your hands. Plato once said, "A grateful mind is a great mind which eventually attracts to itself great things." Gratitude isn't passive, it's generative. It expands what you notice. It softens your resistance. It helps you hold both joy and pain without needing to be rescued from either. That's not weakness, that's maturity. When you carry that mindset through your day, everything shifts. You're not reacting, you're responding. You're not judging the moment, you're receiving it. Even the small things become meaningful. A kind word, a quiet meal, a deep exhale. These are the silent victories that build your emotional foundation. And the stronger that foundation becomes, the less you need from the world to feel whole. Gratitude doesn't mean you stop wanting more, it just means you stop being ruled by the lack. You see what's here, you honor it, and from that place you move forward, not chasing, not proving, just becoming, slowly, honestly, powerfully. That's the shift, that's the silent strength behind every Stoic teaching, not to escape life, but to meet it fully, with presence, with grace, and always with gratitude. 9. Reflect before you react. Your first impulse isn't your final answer. A moment of stillness can save you from days of regret. That pause, that breath before you speak, before you act, is where your power lives. Most of the damage we do in life isn't done because we're evil. It's done because we're rushed, because we let emotion drive the wheel before wisdom has a chance to speak. Anger, fear, pride, these states love speed. They thrive in immediacy, but wisdom is slow. It waits, it watches, it considers. And when you give yourself even just a moment to slow down, to feel what's really there, you break the cycle of reactivity that causes so much unnecessary suffering. The Stoics knew this deeply. They believed that our emotions are natural, but not always trustworthy. You can feel the fire without feeding it. You can acknowledge the fear without obeying it. Carl Jung once said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." That's what the pause does. It gives your conscious mind a chance to intervene, to notice your reaction and choose differently. You're not a slave to your instincts. You can feel something fully and still not act on it. That's strength, not suppression, but awareness. Think about how many times you've said something in the heat of the moment that you wished you could take back, or made a decision too quickly, only to regret it hours later. That sting, that aftermath, it teaches you something important. Reaction is easy, but response is art. The more you practice stillness, the more space you create between the trigger and the action. And in that space, you regain control. Socrates believed that self-mastery was the highest kind of power, not mastery over others, but over your own impulses. When you react blindly, you hand your power over to the moment. But when you choose to pause, to observe without immediately judging or acting, you begin to lead yourself. That pause isn't weakness, it's discipline, it's intention, and it builds a life you don't have to keep apologizing for. It doesn't mean you won't feel things deeply, quite the opposite. It means you'll feel them clearly without letting them run the show. Stillness doesn't erase emotion, it puts it in context. It reminds you that temporary feelings don't deserve permanent decisions, that the version of you who's angry, scared, or overwhelmed isn't the whole of who you are, that there's another voice inside, wiser, calmer, more patient, just waiting to be heard. Plato once said, "The measure of a man is what he does with power, and your greatest power might just be the ability to wait, to listen, to let your higher self respond instead of your ego react." This kind of restraint doesn't make you passive, it makes you deliberate, and deliberate people build lives with far fewer regrets. Over time, that stillness becomes a habit. You start to trust it. You know that you don't have to jump on every thought, every feeling, every urge. You can let them pass through, like weather. You start to notice how many storms you avoid simply by staying still a little longer, how many battles you win by not swinging back, how much peace you protect by just breathing, reflecting, and choosing wisely. And that's the heart of Stoicism, not to become cold, but to become clear, to act with purpose instead of impulse, to lead yourself before you try to lead anyone else. Because your first impulse isn't your final answer, and the moment you remember that, you've already won. 10th, let virtue be the goal, not comfort. Courage, temperance, justice, and wisdom, these are the real goals. Comfort fades, character lasts. When life presses in and the noise of convenience tries to seduce you, it's these inner virtues that quietly hold the line. They don't always feel good. They don't offer instant gratification, but they leave behind something far more valuable than ease. They leave behind strength. We've been taught to chase comfort, to avoid struggle, to reach for what's soft, fast, and easy. But when you build your life around comfort, you build it on sand. It shifts under your feet the moment life changes. The Stoics taught something radically different, that real freedom comes from within, that it's better to train the soul than to pamper the body, that the self is not built in pleasure, but in pressure. Aristotle believed that the highest good for a human being is not pleasure, but eudaimonia, a life of flourishing grounded in virtue. Courage, for instance, doesn't show up when things are easy. It rises when fear is loud and you choose to move forward anyway. It's not the absence of fear, but the refusal to be owned by it. Every time you choose courage over avoidance, you reinforce the structure of who you are. Temperance is another form of strength, though it's quieter. It shows up in your ability to pause, to resist, to not need more just because more is available. In a culture that thrives on overstimulation and overconsumption, temperance is rebellion. It protects your energy, it keeps your mind clear, and it teaches you how to be satisfied without being sedated. Justice is broader than punishment. It's about fairness. It's the commitment to act rightly, even when it's inconvenient. It means treating people with dignity, whether they can return the favor or not. Plato once said that justice in the soul is when each part of a person does what it's meant to do in harmony. So when your actions align with your values, when your thoughts, words, and choices move as one, that's justice on the inside. And that kind of integrity cannot be bought. Wisdom isn't just knowledge, it's applied understanding. It's learning from experience and allowing that knowledge to shape your behavior. Carl Jung reminded us that wisdom is not a product of schooling, but of the lifelong attempt to acquire it. You don't become wise by being clever. You become wise by paying attention, especially to your own failures. Wisdom asks, what have you learned? And more importantly, are you using it? Comfort, on the other hand, is fleeting. It feels good in the moment, but it doesn't build you. It's the warm bed you don't want to leave, the opinion you're too afraid to speak, the boundary you let slide because it's easier. But every time you choose ease over effort, you trade a piece of your future self for a few moments of relief. And over time, that trade adds up. Socrates believed that the unexamined life is not worth living. And part of that examination is asking whether you're building your character or just protecting your comfort. Because one leads you to growth, the other keeps you exactly where you are. It's not that comfort is wrong, but it can't be the goal. Because when the world shifts, as it always does, it's not comfort that keeps you steady, it's character. The Stoics aimed for arete, or excellence, not in achievements, but in being. To them, every day was a chance to practice these virtues, to test them, to refine them. You don't need applause for living this way. In fact, you may get the opposite, but the reward is internal. Peace, clarity, and the deep satisfaction of knowing you didn't fold. So no, it's not about being flawless, it's about becoming whole. And the path to that isn't lined with cushions, it's carved by courage, guided by wisdom, disciplined by temperance, and held accountable by justice. That's the life that holds steady in chaos. That's the kind of life that lasts. The world may praise comfort, but your soul was built for something deeper. In a life filled with noise and temptation, choosing character over ease is the quiet revolution that changes everything. And every time you live by that choice, even in the smallest ways, you reclaim your power. Thank you for being here, part of Stoic Journal, where strength is practiced, not performed. If this spoke to something in you, there's another video waiting on the screen right now that might go even deeper. And when you're ready, we'll be right here. One step, one principle, one choice at a time.